Oh my, you've grown so grand to come to a restaurant I use.
I ran into an unpleasant person. I wish I never had to see her again. Yeah, I also want to use good places for my work. I tried to get past it with a smile, but my manager, Nancy, still bothered me.
Oh, are you complimenting me for using this place? I guess a guy like you can't often afford a place like this.
To be honest, she was annoying, but I couldn't just ignore her. That's right, it's a restaurant that uses good ingredients, so I want to come here on special occasions.
You're wearing a better suit than before. I guess you passed the dress code, but
Nancy splashed the water in front of her on me. Whoa!
this is not the kind of place for a bland middle-aged man like you.
Amy next to me hurriedly took out a handkerchief. Nancy is laughing at me soaking wet.
Ah, inappropriate people like you shouldn't come here.
I see. You do understand, don't you? I borrowed the handkerchief Amy offered and wiped the dripping water. The contract is over.
Huh?
I'm Dennis, a 50-year-old office worker. Due to certain circumstances, I've been moving between companies in various industries. I keep changing jobs, but I enjoy learning about different industries, so it doesn't bother me. However, I've hit a wall at my current company. I'm having trouble with my female boss, Nancy. You might call her a harassing boss. Anyway, she's very tough on me. She was yelling at me twice a day.
Dennis, what is this document? I can't understand it at all.
She started yelling first thing in the morning. Well, you said it was okay when I submitted it yesterday? She complained about the meeting materials I submitted yesterday. She had tossed them aside without looking properly.
Be quiet. How am I supposed to explain to the executives with this unclear document? Redo it.
I was supposed to explain at today's meeting, but she took it over from me. The reason was just that she wanted to stand out in a meeting attended by executives. Give me an hour, I'll redo it. Despite not understanding the material herself, she insisted on explaining at the meeting. It was really annoying. When I returned to my seat, my colleague Tom, who always looks out for me, expressed concern.
Dennis, are you sure you can handle it in an hour? Pass today's work to me.
Tom always looks after me. He looks modest and kind, but he's actually very sharp. He has noticed that I'm hiding certain circumstances and keep changing jobs. Sometimes he asks probing questions, so talking with Tom brings a different kind of tension. I thought something like this might happen, so I've prepared a more simplified version of the documents. I replied with a smile, and Tom smiled too.
As expected, Dennis. You can handle the job way better than Nancy.
No, not at all. We chuckled quietly and continued our work.
That's why I can't trust your materials. What if they tarnish my brilliant career?
After the meeting, I was scolded by Nancy. Because she stuttered during the meeting without understanding the materials, the executives were appalled. And she was furious, blaming it on the materials I made. Well then, from now on, please prepare the documents yourself.
Why should I, the manager, have to make documents? That's your job, the mundane tasks. I'm the star of this company. I should be doing the standout tasks because I am meant to stand out. Got it?
Since the materials made by someone like me could tarnish your career, I retorted calmly to Nancy's yelling and returned to my seat. If I'm going to fail with those documents, I can't keep working at this company. Technically, I'm older than her. There's no need to take every mean remark seriously. As I returned to my seat, my neighbor Tom was laughing.
Nancy doesn't realize the capability of a guy who can redo documents in an hour. She panicked every time she made a mistake. The executives were past angry, and they were laughing. It was also hard for me to keep from laughing during the meeting.
Right, I was actually struggling to hold back my laughter too. It's great how Tom always manages to cheer me up with his laugh. What a blessing. People like Tom are absolutely necessary in a company, I believe. Hopefully, this will teach her a bit about the job.
No way. There's a rumor that the manager got promoted because she stands out. She even said earlier that standout jobs are her jobs. She won't learn the mundane tasks now.
That's a problem. Without someone who understands the work, the instructions will be all over the place.
What are you talking about, Dennis? You secretly fix her chaotic instructions and circulate them within the department. I know about it.
Tom looked at me and laughed again. He had noticed that I was reorganizing Nancy's instructions. He really is a sharp guy. Several months have passed since then, and my time at this company is coming to an end soon. I have informed the company that I will be resigning this month to return to my family home. As I focused on my work before resigning, Tom threw a sharp remark.
Dennis, who really are you? I'm convinced you're some big shot from some company.
Tom is a nice guy, but this is what scares me. Just a regular employee. I'm not anyone grand. I dodged with a smile, and then the usual unreasonable demands from Nancy came flying.
Dennis, do this job by tomorrow morning. I'm going to eat at a high-class restaurant that you guys could never afford in your lifetime because a classy lady chooses classy meals.
Looking at the clock, it was 4:30 p.m. Handing over a new task now with a deadline tomorrow morning. She really is a harassing boss. As I sighed and took the task, more harsh words flew at me.
You're resigning and going back to your family home this month, right? You probably won't do any decent work anyway, so make sure you work hard until the end.
Even the usually calm Tom seemed angry, but I stopped him silently. Yes, I'll work properly until the end. It turned into a late night at work. After a while, Tom came over with some refreshments.
Dennis, I would usually help out, but today is, well, my wedding anniversary. Sorry, I have to go home first.
In the refreshment bag were coffee and donuts from my favorite shop. Wow, thank you. It's an important wedding anniversary, so please go home, Tom. I sent Tom off with an apologetic look on his face. When I opened the bag of refreshments, I was surprised. The coffee was a strong black, and the donut was a cinnamon-flavored churro. Tom really gets it. He even knows my taste. Once again realizing Tom's sharpness, I continued with the overtime work. A month after I returned to my family home, I occasionally got calls from Tom.
Dennis, how are things going there? Over here, Nancy is wreaking havoc.
Really, what's happening? Apparently, there's no one who can handle Nancy's unreasonable demands. No one capable of rushing and handling her urgent tasks. The meeting materials she made herself are a mess. She doesn't understand the progress of her junior coworkers' work. She almost arrived late to the meeting because she got the time wrong. It seems like Nancy's position is in jeopardy due to a string of failures. No one wants to be near Nancy, so it looks like she ended up having to do everything herself. Tom told me all this while laughing.
Dennis, you used to make documents even Nancy could understand. Plus, you casually reminded her about meeting times, didn't you? Now that the unsung hero is gone, her incompetence is fully exposed.
I had been taking all of Nancy's tasks upon myself to spare the other employees. It turned out to be a form of revenge I hadn't anticipated.
Remember when you told Nancy to make her own documents? You said that the materials made by someone like you would tarnish her career. Now everyone is using that line to avoid her.
Tom said with a laugh.
At this point, I'm actually looking forward to seeing what Nancy will mess up next.
Nancy is going wild, but this guy is enjoying it. Tom is truly incredible. Before I retired, I gave Tom some data on how to handle her. He must be using it wisely to help the coworkers. 2 weeks after Tom's call, I was at a restaurant for a business dinner at my new job. This place is a well-known upscale restaurant in the area.
Dennis, about today's entertainment.
Amy, my new work partner, was briefing me. As we entered the restaurant, to my surprise, there was Nancy. No way. I mumbled and stood still. Hearing it, Nancy noticed me.
Oh my, you've grown so grand to come to a restaurant I use.
I ran into someone unpleasant. I wish I never had to see her again. Though I was dismayed inside, I put on a smile. Long time no see, Nancy. I also want to use good places for my work. I tried to brush it off with a smile, but she still hassled me. Perhaps it was her perfume. A strong, sweet scent was overpowering. Wearing such strong perfume in a restaurant is really poor etiquette.
Oh, are you complimenting me for using this place? Yeah, a guy like you wouldn't normally be able to afford a place like this.
To be honest, she was irritating, but I couldn't just ignore her. That's right, it's a restaurant that uses good ingredients, so I want to come here on special occasions. Nancy came closer to inspect my suit and watch.
You're wearing a nicer suit than before. I guess you passed the dress code. But
Nancy splashed the cold water she had in front of her on me. Whoa!
this isn't the kind of place for a dull middle-aged man like you.
Her loud laughter echoed in the restaurant. I was drenched from head to toe, my hair, face, and shoulders all wet.
Hey, what are you doing?
Amy next to me quickly pulled out a handkerchief. Nancy was laughing at me soaked.
Aha, inappropriate people like you shouldn't come here. Your outfit has ruined your work for today. So what are you going to do now?
I see. You do understand, don't you? I borrowed the handkerchief Amy offered and wiped off the dripping water as I muttered. Just as you said, today's work is ruined. The contract is over.
What? What are you talking about?
Nancy was clueless about what she had just caused.
Dennis, are you okay? Hey, what are you doing to the president, our valued customer?
It was the restaurant owner who raised his voice.
What? The president? This guy? What are you talking about?
Nancy, still not understanding, laughed at the owner's words. Beside her, her boss, the department head, had turned pale. The owner quickly handed a clean towel to Amy.
Is it your custom to throw water on a business partner's president all of a sudden?
Amy, drying me off with the towel, glared at the department head. Normally gentle, Amy was clearly angry now. The department head began to apologize fervently, nearly prostrating himself.
I'm terribly sorry. Nancy, explain yourself. No, first apologize.
What? But he's just some dull middle-aged guy.
What are you saying? This man is today's entertainment host, the president of Thomas Industries, Dennis.
What?
Oh man! I sighed. Nancy hadn't even checked the name of the person she was entertaining. Even if she had, I doubt she would have recognized it was me. Yes, I had taken over my family's Thomas Industries and become the president. Amy is my assistant, having served as my father's secretary before continuing with me. I had to know about various industries to take over Thomas Industries. That's why I had been changing jobs. I knew from Amy's briefing that today's entertainment was organized by my former workplace. It was unexpected to see Nancy there. She likely clung to this prominent task of entertaining a client's president as usual.
What? The president? You are.
It was only after the department head scolding that Nancy turned pale. Well, whether I'm the president or just a regular employee, throwing water on someone suddenly is questionable. I spoke to the department head as I finally got dry enough. Should I take this assault as a representation of your intentions? The department head began to bow deeply, his face ashen.
Absolutely not. Please forgive us. We beg you to consider the contract.
Nancy stood frozen and trembling next to him. But it was too late for any take-backs. I looked at Nancy and the department head. This is what happens when you try to stand out without understanding the job. In internal meetings, you can't even explain the materials. You commit the most basic rudeness. Is this really someone who should be in management? Honestly, I'm considering revisiting our contract. Nancy grimaced at my words. Her pale face turned bright red.
Who do you think you are, talking to me like that?
Just as Nancy was about to snap at me, the department head covered her mouth. He forced her to sit on the floor.
We will report this to our president and consider her dismissal. Please forgive us.
Nancy's face twisted in shock.
What dismissal? But this guy used to work for us.
No apology came from Nancy. Instead, she still seemed to think she was my boss.
Enough. How long do you intend to act like you're in charge? Dennis has already resigned from our company and is the president of another. Regardless of his position, you ought to show some manners.
With the department head's stern reprimand, Nancy fell silent.
Why is this guy treated higher than me?
She bit her lip in frustration and glared at me. Just 2 months ago, she had looked down on me. The tables had turned, and it must have been incredibly galling for her. Then the stern voice of the restaurant owner cut through the air.
Hey you, what were you thinking throwing water on someone all of a sudden? And you haven't even apologized. I've always thought you lacked manners, but this is the last straw. You are banned from entering here. Don't ever come back to this restaurant.
The owner was furious. This restaurant's owner is welcoming to those who enjoy their food heartily. He is not very strict about table manners. Being banned by him. Well, it seems she had no sense of manners even in a restaurant. The furious owner, the chefs hurriedly cleaning the wet floor. Nancy still sitting on the ground glaring at me, and the department head apologizing relentlessly. The atmosphere in the upscale restaurant had turned to chaos, no longer suitable for entertaining guests. As I surveyed the chaotic scene, I spoke to Amy. Amy, let's just go home for now.
Yes, Dennis, you need to change your clothes or you'll catch a cold.
We left the restaurant, leaving the department head and Nancy behind. The news of Nancy's outrageous behavior, throwing water at the president of a client company during a business dinner, spread rapidly. Even the fact that she had been banned from the restaurant was widely known. I remembered her talking about going to eat at expensive restaurants when I worked there. Nancy had always prided herself on understanding quality, but now her true colors were revealed. It seemed her upbringing, or rather her character, was now well known. Following the incident, even the president of my previous workplace came to apologize. He first paid for the cleaning of the suit I was wearing at the time. Then he apologized profusely in my president's office. While it was his employee's fault, I almost felt sorry for him. I considered terminating the contract, but I also owed a debt to the place where I had learned my craft. We decided to start the contract negotiations over from scratch. Of course, the president of my former workplace was thrilled to agree. Well, starting over might work out in our favor a bit. There was practically no real damage. If the contract turned out to be more favorable, it was a gain. Nancy was severely reprimanded at her company and initially put on house arrest. The person who had wanted to stand out in front of the executives was now exposed in a way she had never intended. What it must feel like to stand alone in an executive meeting and explain this mess.
Nancy, we need an explanation about this incident.
Oh, well,
Why did you suddenly throw water on the president of Thomas Industries?
I was his boss, so I just.
Given her inability to speak properly even with documents, she could hardly defend herself. I could imagine her standing there sweating and the executive sighing.
Wow, Nancy really messed up this time, throwing water on the president of a client company at a business dinner.
Tom seemed to be enjoying the gossip as usual. According to him, she was now viewed very unfavorably at work. It was only natural since she had single-handedly destroyed the trust her employees had worked hard to build. Given her usual behavior, she probably had a lot of resentment built up against her. House arrest was probably for the best for Nancy herself. If she caused another scene in a fit of spite, it might be irreparable. Whether I forgave her or not, an employee who throws water on someone suddenly cannot be kept at the company. There had already been talk that her managerial position was at risk. Due to severely damaging the company's trust, it seems that disciplinary dismissal is only a matter of time.
Why is that unimpressive middle-aged man the president? He's just a middle-aged man who has constantly been changing jobs. What will become of me?
Nancy, awaiting her punishment, is apparently cooped up at home. She seems to have aged rapidly and is a shadow of her former self. With rumors of her misconduct, reemployment will likely be difficult. Since the restaurant incident, there have been no particular troubles. Recently, I poached Tom for Thomas Industries. I've paired him with Amy, and they are managing the work of the employees, including mine.
I knew it. Dennis was no ordinary man. My guess was spot on.
Tom chuckled after our meeting in the president's office.
Why did you think the president was no ordinary person?
Amy asked him about it while serving coffee.
Oh, Amy, please give the president a strong coffee.
Tom swapped the coffee cups. Young Amy still doesn't seem to understand how Tom figured me out.
Dennis was just too good at his job. When you've been working for a long time, you start to notice such discrepancies, whether someone is too skilled for their years of service or the opposite. I've worked long enough to say I can do this better than even Dennis.
Tom bragged, leaning back with an air of confidence. Amy looked at him with admiration.
Wow, I wonder if I can get to that level with more training.
I couldn't help but smirk. Actually, I was always on edge about when Tom would figure out who I really was. His discernment is a mix of experience and talent. Being able to see the potential in others is truly important. Tom's smile grew even wider.
Absolutely right.
The last phase of training was quite tough, but I met good colleagues. No matter how tough it is, Good encounters make it worthwhile. Looking forward to more good encounters? Let's get to work today. Let's see what kind of encounters we have today.